Commissioner Randolph.
Present.
Commissioner Byrd.
Here.
Commissioner Amar is absent. Oh, let's actually, yeah, there she is. Hold on, let's promote her. There she is.
Hi, Kelly.
And Chair Cormany.
Present. Okay, I have to go through this process, and hopefully this won't be couple more times for COVID protocols. So I'm going to read some language. If you want to join virtually to this meeting, please note, first off, that we won't be accepting new items after 10 p.m. I don't think it's going to be a problem this evening. If we need, we can schedule a special meeting. And I'd like to go into participating in design review during COVID times. In order to minimize the spread of COVID-19 virus, the City of Sonoma is providing multiple alternatives to viewing design review and historic preservation commission meetings, providing comments on the agenda items. Those alternatives allow the city to adhere to the social distancing requirements following the governor's executive order N-29-20, which suspends certain requirements of the Brown Act and provides numerous ways for the public to provide comment live during the meeting. First off, you can view these meetings online, and you can meet them live. They're live streamed on the city's civic web portal at sonoma.civicweb.net. You can also stream them on YouTube. There's a YouTube channel. It's YouTube channel / there's a bunch of letters involved. I'm sure if you search for Sonoma, you can find it there. We can find that link as well. It's rather lengthy. You can also submit comments by email. If you just choose not to attend Design Review Historic Preservation Commission, you may make a comment on a specific agenda item. You can submit your comment via email at publiccomment@sonomacity.org at any time. You can do it prior to the meeting as a public correspondence. Per the city standard practice, any comments received prior to the commencement of the meeting will be uploaded to the public correspondence folder on the city's civic web portal and is available for review by the public and the city council. It will not be read during the meeting. During the meetings as public comment, if you wish for your comments to be read into the record, please submit an email to publiccomment@sonomacity.org after the chair calls the meeting to order and prior to the close of the public comment on that agenda item. You may also participate virtually by using the Zoom video conferencing tool. City of Sonoma is offering the flexibility to view and participate in the Design Review Historic Preservation Commission meetings via video and teleconferencing via Zoom. That's a video conferencing technology for computers. Instructions for participating via Zoom are provided below. Please visit zoom.us, and then typically speaking, when you join the Zoom meeting, you need a meeting number. The meeting number for this meeting is 980-2995-9654, and you'll be able to enter as a guest. If you've downloaded the app, you can enter directly by putting that into Zoom, or you can use a link to get to the meeting. If you previously signed up for Zoom, you can do it just by the Zoom ID. Again, 980-2995-9654. If I don't have a phone or a computer or a smartphone, can I still use Zoom? If you don't have a smartphone or a computer access, you can access the meeting, no problem. You can do it by phone by calling one of the following numbers. I'll give you a couple to start with. 699-980-9128 or 253-215-8782 or 346-248-7799. And again, the meeting ID is 980-2995-9654. How can I provide public comments on Zoom? The chair will request public comments during the public consent comment period on the agenda during each public hearing and regular calendar item. Once the chair has announced the public comment period, please do one of the following. If you're using a computer or smartphone, click on the raise hand feature on the web controls, which is located at the bottom of the Zoom window. This will notify the staff you've raised your hand and would like to speak. The city staff will then unmute your microphone when it's your turn to provide comment. Note that the public's video will not show on the screen because you're using a webinar format. A prompt will appear to confirm you'd like to be unmuted. Once you accept the prompt, we'll have 3 minutes to provide your public comment. Please help to keep it to 3 minutes. Once your public comment has ended, you'll be muted again. If you're using a regular phone, you dial *9. This will notify the city staff you've raised your hand for public comment. City staff will unmute your microphone once your turn to provide your public comment. You will hear you are unmuted, and then you'll have 3 minutes to provide public comment. Once the public comment has ended, you will be muted again. I don't want to provide public comment live. Can I provide my comment on the record for another way? Of course. You may submit all public comments via email at publiccomment@sonomacity.org. I'm having difficulty preparing for the meeting learning Zoom. Do you have any resources? Yes, please visit Zoom's website support page with helpful tips to prepare for the meeting. And I believe that takes care of that process. And hopefully the next meeting we're in August, we're going to go back to in-person meetings. So we'll have hopefully one more round, or that's it for this. With that, I would like to say that, again, we will not be accepting any new items after 10 p.m. If needed, we'll have to schedule a special meeting. And the next step, is there any comments from the public? So anything on the agenda that's not for the public. Staff, are there any public comments?
Double checking, but I do not see any.
Okay. And if you are with the public, and again, if you'd like to make a comment, that's fine. Just keep it 3 minutes or less. The next step is we're going to review and accept the agenda as proposed. We'll look at the agenda as submitted by staff. Does anybody have any requests to change the order or change the agenda in general? If not, I'd like a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, looks like we're moving forward on that. Appreciate that. Any late correspondence from staff?
There's not.
Okay, we're moving right along. Next thing we're checking is the consent calendar. Is there any correspondence on the consent calendar?
There's not.
We'll move right into it. Okay, the first item we're going to look at, we'll move right into the public hearing section. The first item we're looking at is item 7.1. Staff, you'd like to give us an introduction to this item?
Absolutely. I'm just going to take a moment to share my screen. I always have a tricky time with this. Now let's make sure is right now you can just see my PowerPoint, correct?
Yes,
But it's not the presentation mode.
right.
Correct.
All right. Is it in presentation mode now?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. So the proposed project is at 725 Broadway, and the applicant is requesting design review and possible action to approve applications for design review for an office building. It's the Price Family Vineyards and Estates building on Broadway. A little blue dot is the location. The project is located in the Broadway corridor and is zoned for mixed-use development. It is located in our historic overlay district. In 1978, the Planning Commission approved a use permit to allow the structures to be used as an office or a light commercial space. The proposed modifications, I just need to move my little window, there we go, consist of new paint colors. The trim is proposed to be painted white, Benjamin Moore OC 151 PM2. The doors and windows are proposed to be painted Van Duysen blue, and the siding is proposed to be painted Harrisburg green. The project narrative states that the proposed colors were selected from the Benjamin Moore Historic Collection. Here are the proposed colors. Repainting a commercial or mixed-use building in the city of Sonoma requires design review, except when the existing color scheme is substantially retained. And in order to approve the proposed colors, we have the findings for design review. And staff found that the proposed colors complied and the findings could be made. And recommends that the Design Review and Historic Preservation Commission approve the new paint colors subject to findings and conditions of approval. Are there questions?
Are there any questions for staff? That's pretty straightforward. Is the applicant available? And if so, if you raise your hand, the staff will bring you into the meeting. And if they do so, can you please state your name and address for the record and tell us a little bit about your project?
I don't believe they're in attendance tonight.
Okay, so I guess
Well, I had a question for the applicant, but I think it's I went to I'm sorry, Chair Cortmany. I I went to look at the samples and I noticed on the other side of the building, there was another, what looked like sample of colors, and one tended to be a little lighter in shade. And then the one in the back directly was a much darker shade. I mean, similar to this, it looks darker, I think, on the building than the sample we got. But I was just curious if they had a preference to either or. But I can go ahead and move on without that information if it's necessary.
Well, seeing that we don't have an applicant to ask, even though I would prefer to, I think we're gonna have to continue on. Are there any public comments? And if so, again, raise your hand with the little on the bottom of the Zoom window and keep your comments 3 minutes or less. Staff, are there any public comments?
There are not.
Okay. At this time, I'm going to close the meeting to the public and bring it back to the commission for discussion. I'm going to call out commissioners by name and we'll get a little feedback on their opinions. Commissioner Amar.
Yes, hello. I'm happy to see that that building is going to get some color. It's very plain right now with the beige, and so I'm happy to see it updated. The green that we have the paint sample is not my favorite. I prefer the darker or the lighter. I'm not sure, whatever the one was on the building, as Commissioner Johnson was saying, is the one I prefer as opposed to the sample that I have in my hand. But in any case, I think that just having some more vibrant colors on that building will be nice.
Thank you. Commissioner Burt.
This application is pretty straightforward. I like the colors that they proposed. It will really enhance the characters of the building, especially with that white trim on there. And even just based on the findings, everything corresponds and it all seems fine. So it's a nice project.
Thank you. Actually, should correct instead of should Vice Chair Burt. Sorry about that. Commissioner Randolph.
Yes, again, it's very straightforward. I agree with my fellow commissioners, with Commissioner Amar. I think this paint will give the building a nice refresh and uplift. It's a really pretty building and it's just kind of disappearing there. So I think it'll be lovely.
Thank you. Commissioner Johnson.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Cormany. I would like to agree with Commissioner Marr, specifically on color. I'm fine with the color choices they have, but I just want to be on record, my preference being the lighter shade as opposed to the darker shade, I think. But given that the samples that they've submitted have met the findings, and that's why I was curious to ask if they had a preference or if they were open to the other one over the darker shade. But given the information we have, I'm okay with the way that the direction that they're going.
Thank you. Yeah, my comments, I think what I've known from working in painting and color is a lot of times samples are small and colors look darker when you put them on the wall. So maybe that's the case, what's going on here. Maybe that is the color. Once you get on the wall, it goes to a darker shade. And overall, I think that this building agreed that it needs a little love to stand out. It's kind of bland and blending back in. I think it's gonna be a nice project. I have no concerns or issues with it. Is there, the commissioner would like to make a motion to approve?
I move we approve the project as submitted.
A second, please.
Second.
Staff, can we have a roll call vote?
Absolutely. Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Randolph,
Aye.
Commissioner Amar,
Aye.
Vice Chair Burt,
Aye.
Chair Cormany.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Very good. So that was a pretty clean one. Okay, we're moving on to the next agenda item, which is agenda item 7.2. Christina, can you confirm that I have to be recused from this? Do you know?
Oh goodness, let me double check. I don't think you're that close, are you? Let me check.
Well, if you go off my residential, no, my business, yes. And that was a bit of a concern previously.
Hold on, let me, for some reason, it's not letting me promote Brad. There we go. I think Wendy just sent out an updated map.
As while we're waiting, for those who don't know, we have radius around residents and involvement in public policy discussions, which is a 500-foot radius of your residence. And then there was some conversation whether it applied to business address which you lease, which would make that a conflict in my situation currently.
Oh, that's Planning Commission. And can you text me the address and I'll check?
Sure. Sorry for the delay. Got it. Bear with us for a minute, folks.
Ooh, you're right there. Yeah, you're just at 500 feet. Yeah, we should have you recuse.
Okay. So in this case, I'm going to recuse myself, which means I can participate visually, but the audio is off and vice chair takes over. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll just go ahead and move forward with item agenda 7-2, which is discuss, consider, and take possible action to recommend to the Planning Commission the approval of a design review and sign permit applications of Bennett Martin to construct a new restaurant, microbrewery, and a 2-bedroom apartment at 899 Broadway. And can we have the staff report?
Absolutely. There we go. My computer's thinking too hard. All right. We are here to discuss 899 Broadway. The current applications are a use permit, design review, and sign review. And the action before design review tonight is a recommendation to the Planning Commission. The project will move forward to Planning Commission in August. As you know, the city is taking the month of July off from hearings. And the commission recently approved exterior modifications to Jack's Filling Station. And the site is currently used as a gas station. The location. The project site is approximately half-acre long rectangle with frontage on Broadway, West MacArthur, and First Street West. Developed with a small service station that's oriented towards Broadway that was constructed in 1961. Surrounding land uses include residential to the north that is zoned for mixed use. South is commercial development, also designated mixed use. To the east is commercial development zoned mixed use. And to the west is residential and a medium density residential zoning district. So a photo of the project site looking, what is this, west. Some additional pictures of the project site to orient you. The project is located in the Broadway corridor and zone mixed use with a density of 20 units per acre maximum. The required setbacks are a 15-foot front setback, 5-foot minimum side, 15 combined, and a rear setback of 20 feet. The proposed project includes the demolition of the existing 2,250 square foot detached accessory structure and site preparation to support the proposed project. That would be phased into 2 phases. There are 8 on-site parking spaces that would be located along the northern property line that would serve both phases. Phase 1 would be use of the property for a food truck and development of a shade canopy for patrons to eat at the site. The shade canopy would be 10 feet tall, approximately 600 square feet, and be 12 by 50, and located along the northern property line. And the food truck would be parked on site, and patrons could drive up, park, either get takeout or eat there under the shade canopy. Phase 2 would include construction of a 4,775 square foot building that would support a 2,290 square foot restaurant, 1,650 square foot brewery, and an 835 square foot residence. Here's the site plan. You can see on the right the existing gas station. This property is a little bit challenging in the way that it's oriented and for planning purposes. So typically the front property line would be where the address is and the primary frontage. So the address at 899 Broadway, the front is along Broadway, but it has so much frontage, it's going to be a little bit challenging, I think, to strictly apply the development code for some of these elements. There's a closer up view. So this is the phase 2 with the restaurant, brewery, the residence on the left-hand side. Nice patio. Here are the existing elevations of the gas station. The structure proposed for demolition. And elevations of the proposed building. The proposed colors would match the gas station. We have white, green, Old Town gray, and red. Some simulations from First Street West and from Broadway. Proposed landscaping would meet our City of Sonoma water efficient landscape ordinance. Proposed trim would be painted corrugated metal siding, metal canopy, some typicals of the roof overhang, and the proposed lighting. And there are several types of signage that are being proposed. The green signs are roof signs, and the red signs are more wall paintings on an aluminum plate. And here are the findings for design review. And the recommendation tonight is for the Design Review and Historic Preservation Commission to discuss the project and provide recommendations to the Planning Commission regarding exterior colors and materials, the site plan, elevation details, landscaping, and the signage. Are there any questions?
I do have a question.
Yes.
Christina, could you say a little bit more about, you were saying the property's challenging. Is it because the restaurant will be down that long side where you're talking about the setbacks, perhaps?
Yeah, so I think the way that the restaurant is oriented, I would consider the setbacks to be different. So the restaurant's going to be addressing West MacArthur or First Street West even, whereas the gas station addresses Broadway. And so the currently the amount of signage that's being proposed does not meet our sign ordinance, and we would be recommending a condition of approval that there be some modifications for that. However, from a practical matter, we have two businesses on a very large piece of property, and in essence, you can almost draw a line and consider them separately. But the way that our sign ordinance is laid out, it almost penalizes large properties, and based on the aggregate sign area. So we're still working with the applicant to work out a few kinks, but I didn't want to wait until the August design review hearing and then punt them out to September for Planning Commission.
Okay, and then other question would be the old sign that was pictured there. You didn't reference it, but I believe that sign's being restored for use. I'm not sure if it's part of signage or if it's an interior feature. Do you know?
Yeah, I'll let the applicant speak to that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Are there any more questions from the commission? I do have a question going back to the sign application. So as you mentioned, it looks like you're working it as if there's two businesses that are happening. Is there going to be another application that's going to come in for the signage, or is that going to be, are we going to approve it tonight based on, the reason why I'm asking is usually you guys give us measurements and all of that, and none of that's on the report. That's
yeah. The information on the signs is in the it was in the project narrative, and I did an analysis of which complied and which didn't comply, but there definitely is a little bit more work that needs to be done. So what I would hope for tonight is direction and recommendation to the Planning Commission about what you felt needed to be modified. There is language in the staff report about what does not comply, and that conditions of approval would be before the Planning Commission to require the applicants to modify the sign programming to comply.
okay. Great. Okay, is the applicant, are there any more questions before we move forward? Okay, is the applicant here?
Yes. It looks like they might have gotten kicked out.
Yeah.
They were here. I saw them.
Yeah.
Let's just give them a moment.
I'm looking for the verbiage you were talking about in regards to the signage.
I can pull it up. So the biggest issue is so the roof signs are a little too tall. The maximum height for the roof sign would be 2 feet tall, where it's proposed to be 4 feet. So the condition of approval would require that to be lowered. The primary issue is with the aggregate sign area. And so they can address that issue in several ways. One, by reducing the size of the roof sign, that will definitely help, but we definitely need to do a little bit more analysis looking at the gas station, the total of the gas station signage versus the restaurant signage, and making sure that it all complies. But I think that's pretty prescriptive based on the number. So I would focus your discussion on how the signs look. And they're definitely not going to be getting any bigger. They would maybe be getting smaller. So I'm hopeful that we can handle that this evening. If we need to come back at a later date, we could definitely do that as well.
Okay, I see that we have the applicant. Hello, can you introduce yourself and your address, please?
Yeah. we're actually, I don't know the address here. We're at Cornerstone. My name is
I
Bennett.
keep trying to promote Brad, and for some reason, it doesn't seem to be
He's
working.
not available. It's okay.
Okay.
I'm Bennett Martin with Strata Architects and Planners, and sitting with me is Catalina. She's one of the designers on the project. What I would like to do is just give you a little history, how we ended up where we are today with this project. We had initially come in and we were going to renovate the restaurant or the gas station and turn it into a restaurant and do a lot split and do a housing development on the west side of the property. And by the time we got through historic preservation, realizing we were going to have to disassemble the gas station and reassemble the gas station to meet today's building codes, the project just became financially unfeasible. So the owners decided to go ahead and redo the gas station, and I think they've done a really good job. And they decided not to split the lot, and they wanted to bring in in-town restaurant that was more community-based, that was kind of a small, quick, somewhere somebody can go in and get a non-expensive meal and have it quick and have a nice place to sit outside. So hence became Broadway. What do we call it?
Oh,
The
Broadway Hardware.
yeah, the name of the restaurant is going to be Broadway Hardware. To answer the sign question that the commissioner had raised, the owner found that old sign, and it's an old ceramic sign. It's a little bit bigger than we'd like it to be, but we were going to renovate that sign back to its original state, and that was going to be the roof sign. What Christina was talking about is the sign being a little bit high. We can lower that down. We cannot change the size of the sign because it's a historic sign and we want to leave it what it was. But we're more than willing to work on the signage program to get into compliance. And we know that being a single lot, we have some issues there. So the idea behind the restaurant was to have a nice outdoor area, more outdoor space than indoor space. So we're creating a nice landscaped patio with an outdoor canopy and seating that will be directly to the existing gas station. And where the food truck has access to it, which currently they have a temporary use permit to operate that food truck. The idea is to operate that food truck as a coffee and small meal prior to getting this restaurant up and running, because it's going to take years by the time we're done and built and approved. And then a small brewery that we're going to reduce the size of the building just a tiny bit. The brewery really doesn't need to be that big. We're going to increase the setbacks on the west side of the property to comply with, we're over by 5 feet. So we're going to pull that back in and make it work. The color scheme really was off the original color scheme that we found a couple of years ago when we redid the gas station. As an old, that was true to color, but that was I think a dinosaur gas station or something originally. So those colors were actually original colors, and the whole idea was to create more of kind of a farm, family friendly kind of area where you could go and hang out in the building. Wasn't really obtrusive, but we carried the color scheme through, and that was the idea, that we kept the context kind of all the same. But one of the reasons the signs are a little bit big also is just for the sheer fact we're block off Broadway, and the owner really wants to attract, there's a very short window when cars are driving by there. So it's really going to be more for locals than tourists, I would imagine, in this town that are just driving by quickly that may not see this place. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. There is limited seating on the inside. The majority of the seating is on the exterior of the restaurant. And again, we just really trying to keep the buildings in context to kind of what was there. By use of the metal, the existing building that we're tearing down is kind of a corrugated metal building. And we thought that actually would nicely with the gas station and not go to more of the flat metal panel that's on the gas station to give it a little relief on the building itself. So happy to take any questions or answer anything you need.
Thank you. Are there any questions to the applicant from the commission?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Vice Chair Burt. Bennett, how far off is this project now from when you originally brought it in? I don't have the old paperwork on it, but it
Oh,
looks, it
gosh.
feels pretty similar.
Oh, but it was at least 3 years ago,
Yeah,
originally, when we brought it in for the other plan that we were proposing, which was basically just a larger, yeah, it was 2017. Where it was just we were gonna renovate the gas station, turn it into a restaurant and add some square footage to it.
it just seemed, I seemed like I remember there was a brewery addition to it, and
There
it's
was.
similar to what you're already proposing, but.
Yes. That one,
and-
the brewery was outside, if you remember, it was a smaller structure right outside the restaurant.
Okay, and the signage you had then was all approved? I can't
It
remember.
was.
Okay, that's it.
Are there any other questions for the applicant? If not, are there any comments from the public?
No comments from the public.
Okay, all right, so we'll bring it back to the commissioners and get their input on it. So we'll start with Commissioner Amar.
Okay, well, this is kind of a lot to deal with here. My first thought is that there's a lot trying to be accomplished on one lot. A lot of different things going on one lot, and I know it's a big lot. I'm just wondering if it's a lot too much going on all at once for that space, and how it would affect parking spilling out, traffic issues, and issues we've already had with pedestrian safety in that area. So that's my biggest concern, but I think that's planning who would deal with that. Aesthetically, I really love the design. I think it really kind of reflects a good combo of the gas station and that barn. That's kind of cool, but obviously is kind of a safety hazard. It needs to come down. So I was happy to see that it kind of just matches those two elements, and I like that the colors. I like that it's consistent throughout. For any signage, I would prefer nothing to be illuminated, really, because it's such a residential quiet spot there already. To keep it pretty quiet and dark at night would be nice, even though there'll be a lot of folks there. So there would be other safety concerns about that, lighting and not lighting. The style, I love the style, the farmhouse, the concept, the overall concept, the restaurant would be a great addition to the neighborhood. Everything's so close to the plaza. It's nice to have little options a little farther out on Broadway for those folks. And I think that's all I have to say about that right now.
Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Vice Chair Burt. I have obviously been following this project since they originally brought it in, and I think I like this presentation a little better than what I remember the first one was. The colors are fine with me. I guess my main concern would be and what we're going to be approving or recommending is that based on the issues we're having with some of our past projects that and the direction the city is trying to move into, that we just make sure that we are following the signage code as closely as possible. I know that this is a little different and there's some challenges, but I am okay with the direction they're going and would be happy with the recommendation. But again, just caveating that, I think we need to keep as close to what the city code is, given the direction that we're kind of pushing towards now.
And
Thank
if I
you.
can comment about that, currently a sign exception has not been requested. So all the conditions of approval would require that there be compliance with the sign code.
Okay. Then with color and style and the look, I'm okay with that.
Commissioner Randall?
Thank you, Vice Chair Burt. I also have followed this project for a while, and I want to say that I think this is an incredibly creative use of this space. I really like this round. I think would be a terrific addition to the Broadway corridor. There's things happening on the corridor, and I think that this would be a real lift. I love the idea that it's a community-based restaurant. I looked at the menus this morning and I was like, well, I'd like to pop over there right now. And it looks very inviting. I agree with Commissioner Marr. There's kind of a lot going on there for us to approve. I wasn't quite clear about whether the food truck is permanent or is just temporary there for the time while the restaurant's being built. Either way, it seems fine, but I just wasn't quite sure about that. Signage, I think, is charming. The old sign, if it's not, I didn't realize it was as big as it is, but if it's not possible for you to use it on the outside, I do wonder if it could be a cool feature on the inside of the restaurant. It's your style that you're using is so cool. And I don't know what the inside exactly looks like, but I can kind of imagine that big sign like over a counter or bar or whatever. So those are my comments at this time.
And then I don't want to mispronounce your name, Commissioner DRHPC?
As an alternate, I don't know if I have the right to make any statement.
I believe you do, since we have one commissioner that has recused himself.
Okay.
So,
I agree with the other commissioner about the project. The only question I have from applicant is how the materials are delivered to the brewery.
how are the materials delivered to the brewery?
Yes, because normally it's coming in a truck or something. I didn't see any provision for the bulk material delivered to the brewery.
Is it okay if I answer that, Christine?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Thank you.
So on the west side of the property is the driveway that accesses the parking lot. And the very first piece of the building is the residential unit. And right next to it is the delivery door for the brewery itself. And it will be a roll-up door right there. And then there's a period of time that the restaurant has deliveries for materials, food deliveries and product for the brewery itself.
Would there be any silo for the materials to be stored before processing?
Any what?
Silo.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, no, everything for the brewery will be contained within the brewery space itself. So there won't be anything outside at all.
Thank you. I have no other comments on the project.
Okay, thank you very much. And I do have one question for the applicant in regards to the food truck. Will that be a temporary, or are you going to leave it after the restaurant is open? What's the plan for that?
I believe right now the owner wants to keep it there even when the restaurant's open. The restaurant hours are 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. And the food truck is more of like a coffee cart kind of thing. And so it opens earlier so people can get coffee and maybe use that canopy, that back area. That was kind of the impetus of the thing because there was really nowhere to get coffee right there in that area. So maybe guests over at MacArthur Place or, you know, some of the businesses, we just found out Charlie's business is within range, so he could walk over and get a cup of coffee.
The reason for my question, and I'll bring it back to staff, you know, we're talking about the signage and all of that. And I don't know if that would affect that as far as the truck still being there, any signage for the truck and the restaurant and the brewery. And you had mentioned some kind of exception that we can add to the conditions.
So it would be a separate, sign exception is a separate application. I do think we need to do a little bit more work on the sign program, but, you know, considering we're still requesting a use permit, I don't know that we necessarily need that specific detail worked out at this point. Just straight code based, the roof sign is too big, the roof sign is too high. Can't be more than 2 feet above the midline of the roof, if I'm getting the terminology correct. I liked Commissioner Randolph's idea of maybe using it more for an interior decor or something like that. Those two signs are really the elements that are the most visual and impactful to the neighbors. But there are certain details that are currently signs, like the round red circles, whereas if they were just painted on the wall and it was more part of the decor, and then maybe it's not a sign and it's just a detail on the building. So I think there's some ongoing discussions to be had. I definitely would love to hear some discussion and comments about the pole lights that are proposed and the lighting. We don't have a photometric analysis yet, but I know that a couple of those lights are pretty close to the property line.
So anyone want to have any comments in regards to the lighting?
I think it's a little hard without kind of more information on lumens and all of that. But in terms of just aesthetically, I think the direction is good. It seems like there's just a lot of missing components we typically get a package and it's pretty well prepared and it's a lot easier to weigh all the elements. So it seems like we're just kind of giving them a stamp of approval on, the aesthetics of everything, and the elevations and everything, or separate things will come back to us with more detail.
Yeah, and there's a couple ways we could handle it. One is if there are specific recommendations, that the recommendation could include that implementing the condition of approval that the sign program has to meet the code. Before we go to Planning Commission, they would need to provide the additional information like the photometric analysis. We could take it to Planning Commission in August and then bring it back to design review potentially, or you could recommend a continuance and continue the hearing to August, and then they could go to Planning Commission in September.
Yeah, and just to follow up, I mean, because then we're also, I can't really recall on the north side if there are, visible windows on that apartment complex and how that's going to impact.
Yeah, I think there's some balconies.
Yeah. So it just seems like without any input too from, those people that will be affected, which we normally would get or not get, but we typically do. It's kind of a difficult position to be in.
So
Would it be?
Sorry.
Go ahead, Commissioner Randolph.
Thank you. So perhaps another of our recommendations could be feedback from the neighbors. I didn't hear that in the presentation, and it maybe has happened, but yes, as Commissioner Marr commented, this is in a pretty residential area, so I think we need to be sensitive to that in terms of both the light and just the fact that there will be a restaurant there, to just be sure that everybody's doesn't have huge objections.
Any other comments? Would it be possible, before they submit the application, between now and to the Planning Commission, is for the applicant to start considering some of these issues and have those discussions already prepared, plus an analysis more with the signage if you go back and and talk about the signage issue would be nice. That way, when it goes to planning commission, you're not going to waste more time having this type of discussion and then having it to come back again to design review with more content or unanswered questions. Would that be possible?
I could add to that, Christina, if you want.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
just to
let me
kind of.
address- Yeah, address two things. So the first, the neighbors and the lighting. So on the first restaurant, which is actually more impactful to the site than this actually is, we held a neighborhood meeting at the gas station. I think we invited everybody within 150-foot radius or 300-foot radius. We had, I think, about 6 people show up to that meeting, and we went through all of the issues prior to that approval in that one, and none of the neighbors were objecting to what we were doing on the site, because we were kind of, in general, leaving the site kind of the same. We were doing a more intensive restaurant. We actually had more lighting on that plan than we do on this plan, because of the housing and the parking lots were much bigger. So that's one item. So we did address the community in a lot in the last time to get their buy-in, to make sure that we weren't proposing something that was not even going to be, we didn't want to go to a meeting and get, 55 people up there. So on this one, since it's a lot less, and we put the parking lot on the back side, which is similar to the other one, because one of their comments was early on was, it's nice that we've kept the development on MacArthur Street, because they didn't want things right up against their fence line. So actually, in the other proposed project where the outdoor canopy is proposed now here, we had a very large trash enclosure. So that was the only thing that was kind of right on the property line. And then we looked at kind of moving that around, but we've now moved it to the street, because somebody did make, one of the neighbors did make a comment in our last community meeting that we had about that. And the lighting, if you notice on the site plan, we've only put 2 pole lights in that parking lot. We just did a project at Sasserini Middle School, our Sasserini parking lot. We redid all the lighting on the whole campus there. The impetus for that project was the entire row of housing on Andrix that faces that parking lot. And the lights we're using are self-directing, so we can adjust how the lumens come down and how they hit the ground. But these lights, if you notice, they're in on one of the pages, all the light fixtures. We've chosen a very low pole mounted fixture. It's very similar to what we did over at Sasserini, to keep those lights away from the neighbors. And that one, those lights are right on the property line, a little bit closer actually than these are on the property line. Around the building, we've chosen a downlight, which is a 5-watt LED. These are not bright lights. They're primarily just for safety in the evening to walk around the building. And they're going to shine directly down onto the walkway. So they go nowhere but straight down. So that is the green kind of gooseneck fixture that we're showing. And then at the canopy area, we just had some LED hanging lights. And you see these, they have them over at Hot Monk. They've got them out there in the patio, so you kind of know what those are. I don't think those are LEDs. Those are incandescent bulbs, but we want to use LEDs just because the light is a little bit less, and we can dim all these lights also. And then if we do end up with roof-mounted light, it would be directly onto the face of the sign if we end up with the sign there. And so again, we've chosen a very small LED that just basically hits the face of the sign. No uplighting at all, no direct uplighting on the project whatsoever. So we wanted to keep the lights out of the neighbors at pretty much all cost.
Thank you.
I do have a couple of photos that might help. I have some photos that I took today. So this is looking due north. I believe those trees are going to be removed.
The one on the left is on the other property, isn't it?
Is it?
That big one's on the other property, isn't it?
Where's
Where's the other one?
Oh, I think it is. Yeah, that is coming down. Yes, those trees are coming down, sorry.
And then it looks like there's a neighbor right next to the building that would be demoed. So the other option is that the applicant could bifurcate the application and they could take the use permit forward and then take the design review and sign permit, bring that back to the Design Review and Historic Preservation Commission.
Okay. Are there any more comments from the commission? Okay, so we'll bring it back for discussion and a vote. So Commissioner Amar?
I don't know if I have anything else to add. The lighting plan seems pretty well thought out. I like that they're doing the other work in town and very sensitive toward the neighbors. I like that they reached out to the community and invited them to present. Those are positive things. And as far as going forward with approving any signage, I think I would like to see something a little bit more specific. I think I'm okay with the lighting as he presented it, and I'm definitely okay with the style and the aesthetics.
Commissioner Johnson?
Vice Chair Burke. I like the suggestion that Christina just made about moving forward with the permit, but also bringing back the other components with more information. I also, again, would like to just kind of echo what I said earlier about the signage, getting that within our signage code, or as very close as possible, but hopefully within. And other than that, I mean, aesthetically, I think the project is great. I like what they're doing. I, would like, well, if you've talked to the residents about this new project already, great. Then it doesn't seem like there's much opinion against. But for me, I guess, without having a lot of the information that we normally have, and I don't want to hold up the project, I'd like to kind of follow with what Christina just suggested. Those are my comments.
Thank you. Commissioner Randall?
I'm pretty comfortable with the lighting description. And I think I'm satisfied with what was said about the neighbors. I'm wondering if we can either do what Chris just suggested, or if we can create a motion that includes so when this project gets to planning, there will have to be compliance with signage. Once you've completed your analysis, you're not even finished with your own analysis of the signage, right? So I'm just wondering if we can craft a motion that says that we recommend moving the project forward, but that we want the signage to be in compliance with the city code, and then that would have to be worked out at the next step.
Yeah, absolutely. And
that might not satisfy Chris though, because I think you have other concerns.
I certainly could live with that. I mean, again, I'm not opposed to the way that things have been presented. I just, we typically just have information at hand, but I don't want to hold the project up either.
And maybe we could check in with the applicant and see if they're comfortable with that prior to making a motion.
Mm-hmm.
Not a problem for us. We know the signage is complicated here because of what we're trying to do, and Christina's been very helpful. And we're happy to work with her to make sure that we comply with whatever the city comes back and says, this is what we think we need you to follow. It's not a problem.
I think you're pretty close, really.
Yeah.
You've got it, the big, beautiful old sign is a barrier, but I mean, it seems like there's a lot of different things you could do with that amazing piece. So with the other signage, it's not aesthetics or anything, it's just working out the numbers.
I think so. My recommendation would be that the commission recommend that the Planning Commission review and approve the use permit application and request that the design review and sign permit components return to the Design Review and Historic Preservation Commission for final review and approval.
Excellent.
Okay, Commissioner Jahami?
Thank you. I agree with the commissioner, and I think the signage can be handled as a side issue. The rest of the project, considering that the neighbors are fine with it setting, I have no objection to the project, and I think it would improve that corner of the Broadway and West MacArthur significantly.
Thank you. And I agree with all the commissioners. I'm excited about the project. It's sort of a blight issue. Now the next project will move across the street, and then that whole corner will be fantastic. And I love the idea of having some commercial on Broadway and taking some of the traffic down and strolling down Broadway. I think that's great. And I guess we're ready for a vote. So do I hear a motion?
So let's see. So I wish I could repeat what Christina said. And let me understand what you said was that we would recommend to planning the approval of the use permit
Approval of the use permit.
and a discussion of the signage program.
And
we approve
condition
of
of
the
approval.
project in concept, and we recommend approval of the use permit and we also recommend discussion of the signage program to ensure that it complies with city code.
And a condition of the recommended motion would be that the Design Review and Historic Preservation Commission recommends approval of the use permit with a condition of approval for the design review and sign permit to return to the Design Review Preservation Commission for approval.
I hope someone typed that.
You can say so moved.
So moved.
So moved.
Yeah.
And do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, I guess we'll go ahead and do how is it when you go individually?
Roll
Like
call.
Roll call.
Roll call, thank you. Okay, Commissioner Amar,
Aye.
Commissioner Randolph,
Hi.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Jahami,
Aye.
and I.
Unanimously approved. Recommended for approval.
Thank you for your time, commissioners. I
Thank
appreciate
you
it.
so much for
Thank
your
you.
project.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm back. Hard one to sit down and not be able to talk. I had a lot to say about that. No. Are there any further items for discussion, staff?
No, just a reminder that there's no meeting next month, and hopefully our next meeting in August will be in person.
Yeah.
See all your beautiful faces again.
Wow.
I never
Very
thought I
nice.
would miss this room so much.
Are there any issues or updates? Again, a question for staff.
We've got a lot going on. We are working on updating the zoning code and kicked off a couple really exciting items as far as the historic preservation of our city. We have a contract with Page and Turnbull to move forward the historic train district item that has been kicking around forever. So that is getting started. We have a kickoff meeting next week with the Sonoma League of Historic Preservation and the Sonoma Historic Society. And the next big chunk will be working on our objective standards, and as well as doing a review of our historic overlay district and how all of those pieces interplay with SB 330. So for those of you who are aware, SB 330 is a state bill that is intended to streamline housing, and in doing so, it limits some of the purview of the city. It limits the number of hearings. So for a typical project here, we would have a tree committee meeting, maybe a study session, design review, planning commission, and then if it was appealed to city council, that's 5. And so that's the maximum number that are allowed under SB 330. So we do have several applications that are coming in for some larger projects. And so we're working on removing our subjective standards, which are things like the neighborhood should look like, a beautiful place, as opposed to the setback shall be 20 feet in the specific location.
Great, thank you. I would like to personally thank Christina, because I know she's kind of running the show. It's out of her normal realm. So in Wendy's absence, I appreciate what you've done. And thanks to Vice Chair Burt for taking over when I had to be quiet, because I appreciate that. And to all of you for participating in this event. And I look forward to doing this again in person. This will be the last Zoom, which would be awesome. Go back to reality. So with that, we'd like to adjourn. The meeting is over at 7:08 p.m.
Commissioner Conley, can I just add something real quickly?
Sure.
Christina, I just want to throw this out here about the rail district, because I've been, I've been following it since they've started that, and we finally got some funds for it, and it's starting to move forward. Because it's in the neighborhood of mine, I'll have to probably recuse if it goes on and I'm on the commission. If there's a chance for an ad hoc members to join in with the discussions, I would certainly like to, just because I'd like to at least have some kind of input or be involved, because I probably won't be a part of the voting of it.
Great, I will forward that on to our consultants, and if you know of anybody else who's interested in participating, please let us know.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm even wondering if I may have to recuse from that too, from where I live. So,
Could be.
yeah. I don't need to know right now, but
I'm trying to think what the process is going to be moving forward. So it's a new district. So we're basically drawing a line. So the historic resource evaluation, identifying the need for that has already been done. So we're basically going to be, drawing a line in the sand. So I'll look into that and bring that back at the next meeting.
Nothing new going to be added to the area then.
We are going to be doing a good look and discussion and turning over stones and making sure that if there are other districts that we look at it. We do have historic resource evaluations that identified potentially a Sebastiani Cottage district and the Broadway district. So we're going to be looking at what else we're missing.
Wow, that's exciting.
Yeah, it's good to hear.
It's really exciting.
Any other comments or issues updates? That's it. Okay. Now, officially, we're going to adjourn at 7:10 p.m. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate your participation.
Have a great summer, everybody.
Bye. Nice to see everybody.
Nice to see you
Good
all.
to see you.
Bye-bye.